Thank you. Political science professor and analyst Lincoln Mitchell joins me now. First, I want to get your reaction to the address and the message that America is on the move again. Is it? And what stood out to you?
Well, what stood out to me is what's long stood out to me for the last 100 days is just the scope of Joe Biden's ambition. On the one hand, taking credit for the COVID relief bill on the end and the vaccines, but also saying we're going to continue to move forward. I mean, Biden's message was clear. The era of big government is back. And for Americans who are grounded in reality rather than kind of right-wing fantasies, that's a good thing. The era of big government gave us the post-war prosperity, gave us victory in World War II, got us out of the Depression. So it was putting to bed a series of conservative ideas about government and the role government should play and the magic of the market that have dominated American political life for a generation, and not in a helpful way.
What do you make of Biden's focus on China? He spent a bit of time there, and the message that he sent of confrontation and competition.
Well, one thing that struck me, particularly in the clip you played from the Chinese foreign ministry, is that it is in China's interest for the United States to be a stable, functioning country, just as it is in the United States, Americans' interest, for China to be a stable, functioning country. So Biden might be phrasing that in the language of we have to do these things to keep up with China. That's a political message. The reality is we have to do these things because our country is in crisis. We have to make a modern, functioning American state because otherwise people will continue to sink into poverty, because otherwise polarization between different groups of Americans will grow. So Biden has been around for a long time. He's a professional. He understands he doesn't want real conflict with China, but he does recognize China is a rising political force, rising economic force, and the U.S. needs to be able to keep up with that and maintain where it is, and it can't do that unless our state functions, unless our systems function.
And is he positioning China as a challenge because the U.S. is behind playing catch up when it comes to infrastructure, technology, electric vehicles? I mean, the U.S. hasn't even confirmed an ambassador to China yet.
Well, the U.S. is behind a lot of countries when it comes to those things. Some, like China, are ones with whom we compete. Others are allies. We're behind a lot of Europe. We're behind Japan in some of those areas, and those are longstanding allies. But I think if you say to an American population, we need to catch up because things are looking better in France than they are here in some respects, no one cares. So the political side is we have to do this because of China. Now, the challenge of confirming an ambassador is that the Republican Party has a much more confrontational approach to China, which they're allowed to do because they're not actually making policy anymore. So it's easy to have kind of hawkish rhetoric when the decision doesn't come to you. And as we saw with the previous administration, Donald Trump, the rhetoric was always very strong, but the actions were never very confrontational.
About a minute left. How do you think Biden's address is being received internationally? Can the U.S. automatically resume its relationships with allies abroad and forget the last 4 years of Trump, and are these allies willing to jump into U.S.-China confrontations?
Well, nothing is ever automatic, so let's get that idea off the table right away. America's allies, our allies are probably thinking two things. One, it's really great to hear an American president who speaks the language we understand, who has a vision for America that we support and understand, and for the alliances that America has. But there's also a lingering doubt. What if the Republicans get in power, right? What if the party of insurrection gets back in power? What if the party of America First gets back in power? And because of that, if America leads an international crusade against China, I'm not sure how many followers we'll have in that crusade, but I think to suggest that right now the United States wants a crusade against China is inaccurate.
All right, great to get your take. Lincoln Mitchell, thank you so much for joining us from New York.
Thank you.